all discombobulated.
Mr. Chair, the time is 7:30. We have everybody to have for the evening, so the floor is yours.
All right, calling to order the May 13th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Let's start with approving this evening's agenda. If I can get a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the agenda?
Seconded.
I second the motion.
All in favor of proceeding with the agenda as presented?
Aye.
Approved. Okay, then the next thing on the agenda is the approval of the March 11th minutes we have in our packets. I would entertain a motion to approve or any.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the March.
Second that?
March 11th, yep. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Okay, now we're on to the evening's appeal for 25144 East Roy Court, and we'll open it up to the applicant.
If we could ask you to speak into the microphone
Yeah.
when you are, because there you go.
Yeah, I was pulling it over. There, can you hear me?
Excellent. Yep.
Hi, I'm Michael Gordon from Moisey Gordon Associates Architects, representing the homeowners that are here tonight, Megan McKnight and Daniel Moore. As noted in your packet, we are adding a single-story addition to the rear of the home to create a new ensuite primary. Currently, the family shares the hall bath. Further, the original closeting for the primary bedroom was inadequate for today's living. We are also looking ahead so that as our clients age in place and hope to remain in their home and in the communities for as long as possible, the larger shower with zero threshold entry will facilitate their future, whatever it holds. Wider halls, the house already has wide hallways, it's very accommodating. Clearances around the bed, they drive the need for the slight increase in the overall size. Further, the 106 square feet we're asking for is just a 3% increase, and we also are still 1% under the lot coverage of 30%. We'd looked at multiple options, including going up, but as noted, that was counterintuitive to a simple future, as well as imposing on the unique architecture of the home. It would require the location of a stair, taking up additional square footage, because stacking the stair over the existing was not really a good option because the access would have been through the laundry room or would have facilitated much more extensive renovation. The exterior has been detailed to blend in seamlessly with the original, and we'll use all matching materials. The brick, which is back here, is the matching brick. That's not the matching color, but they're just waiting to find out how many they're going to run in the run. And we will reuse what existing brick we have. As noted, the several variances for the addition, but we feel they're reasonable in this case. The 3-inch side yard. If I could go back in time and simply torque the house, it's out of square with the lot. It's actually 2.88 inches that we're asking for on that one corner of the house. We looked at offsetting the addition from the original footprint to eliminate the need for the side yard variance, but it creates an extra valley that runs down because the roof offsets. A 3-inch little offset in the roof we felt was looking down the road at a future problem. The client did take the time to meet with all the adjoining neighbors who we thought would be impacted by this, and hopefully it's in your package. There's a letter of the 9 neighbors who surround the house, have all signed off in support of what we're doing. If not, I have an extra copy here. Do you have a copy or no?
The planning commission guys.
Okay.
So if there's an extra copy
Sure.
they want to circulate, you should feel free.
Not only do we go to the adjoining neighbors, but we got the ones behind and across the street. We think this is a reasonable approach to the project, and we think it serves the client well and allows them to maintain the lifestyle of the neighborhood for as long as they care to live here. And as a neighbor, I live too. I live at the other end of the woods. We hope you look favorably upon this, and the owner would like to speak.
I'm Megan McKnight. It's my husband Dan Moore. I really, the only people on the agenda, and I'm very impressed to have such such an audience tonight. So, I appreciate you all being here, honestly, in your service. We're asking for we did get the permission of all of the adjacent, all of our neighbors. We've spoken with all of them, and those who live across the street from us. The 100 additional square feet, we looked at different ways in order to put the additional bathroom inside our existing footprint, and it would really kind of mess up the internal architecture. The original builder of the home lived in it and has a whole bunch of really unique architectural features and woodworking and built-ins, and we'd have to kind of blow up this amazing mid-century design in order to add this bathroom to accommodate us right now. Right now, we basically share a bathroom with my kids, and we'd rather not do that for them. We'd like to add this and have another space in our house. So happy to answer any questions. I appreciate your time and consideration of this.
Hank?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. What I'll do is I'll kind of give you a brief rundown of the city's thoughts and position, and then they can certainly answer or respond to anything that we have to say. So basically what they're looking for is they're looking for a very, very minimal line difference for the setback on that. So I want to do something a little bit different, and this will perhaps illustrate what Michael was talking about. When you take a look at it like this, that's their lot. So the problem that they have there is that you can see that it was originally 2 lots combined to make the 100-foot of frontage. This one is 54.99, as is this one 54.99, as is this one 54.99. This side is 53.91. Yet the lot next to it is 54.49, and that accounts for the apex of the triangle that's back here that this is forming. So the reality of this was, if this was the 54.99 like the rest of the block, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So that's one of the things that we have. So I wanted to show you the lot because it does make a difference. And again, as Michael alluded to, that you have a situation where, yes, the house is skewed and the lot is configured differently. So you have an irregularly configured house on the lot. It's not parallel to the lot line, so any addition that was going to come off the back, depending on how long it was going to run afoul of this variance. It would have had to have. So, hold on just a second here. Now, taking into consideration this, and then I'll go through the criteria. This is the area here where this house is. This is the front, which is Roy Court. The addition in and of itself is not going to be visible from anywhere on the front of the house. So the actuality is that they have the signatures of everybody around them, and the Planning Commission had that information. This does come to you approved from the Planning Commission, subject to the Zoning Board of Appeals approval. So what does that mean? That means that the Planning Commission felt that there was enough merit in the project, even though it needed variances, to pass it to the ZBA for final stamp of approval, assuming that you're willing to give it. So that's the one variance. The other variance is the size variance. 106 square feet is roughly a 10 by 10, or the size of a shed that we allow, or it's less than the size of a shed than we allow on this property. So realistically, this is smaller than any shed that you could get to put on the property, and you would still be legal. The reason that they're doing it is because they do want to add first floor living space. We've talked in the past at the Planning Commission level about adding handicap and adding different types of services for that. And we've run into some things where I'm hopeful that that's going to show up on the Planning Commission priority list, which we're going to be talking about with them in another week or so. So there's several things that we have for that. 106 square feet, again, is that a minimal ask? Maybe. That's up to you to decide. So the house, what you're looking for is special or unique conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, which are not generally applicable to the other land, structures, or buildings in the same district. As you can see, the house is on a lot that's not square. The way that the house is situated, the side area gets smaller with any addition. This meets the least side setback but runs afoul of the total setback as the lot narrows. Straight up, straight back is accepted under the code as long as it doesn't exacerbate the nonconformity. This case is different because the existing place of the house on the irregular lot anything is going to exacerbate the nonconformity. And what we are looking at is 3 inches for rough figure. So that's the first variance. The second variance is they're going to have to demonstrate their practical difficulty or hardship. The extra footage would clearly make the house more functional, and again, it was approved by the Planning Commission, subject to the ZBA approval of the variances. Michael articulated that there's interior hallways, there's interior closet space, there's interior bathroom space that are needed for the first floor in order to make this house consistent with the other architecture and houses that are in Huntington Woods and offered in that particular area. 2, the variance will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the general welfare. So when you take a look at that, the only thing that I can tell you is I've had no adverse communications to date on either one of the variances that were noticed in the same notice at the same time. Also, they've supplied a list of 10 neighbors that have all said that they're in favor of this particular project, which would indicate that there's no adverse projection on the neighborhood. And then 3, the special or conditions of the circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. 1, again, the house and the configuration of the house on the lot and the platting predates the McKnight Moore ownership. And 2, they will have to demonstrate the practical difficulty or hardship. They've already spoken to that, so that's up to you to decide that. The other thing that you want to consider is that all of this predates their ownership. Whether it be the architecture, whether it be the style of the house, whether it be the configuration of the interior of the house, and whether or not this is a reasonable and prudent use of the property and a small enough ask where you might feel comfortable with that. And then 4, a literal interpretation of the provision of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed in other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance, that the variance is the minimum necessary. So what they're looking at for the side yard clearly would fall under a minimum necessary. 3 inches is about as minimum as you can get. So that's one of the things that you want to consider. It's a minimal ask. The logistics of the building on the site create a problem. And again, the argument could be is if the lot was platted straight and the house was previously put at right angles, likely we wouldn't even be here having this discussion for this one right now. And then B, which is the size variance, while 106 square feet is not an exceptionally large amount, the reasoning should be such that you're convinced of the merits of this. And what that'll mean is if you decide, look, the bathroom, the addition for the back of the house is reasonable and prudent use of the property and is consistent with the architecture of not only Huntington Woods, but the neighborhood that they live in, then that might be a consideration for you to do that. So the decisions are A, move to grant the appeal for a variance from section 40-4.03 R1A through R1E, one family district, schedule of regulations for a total setback variance where the total required is a total of 14 feet and the request for a total of 13.76, making the request 0.24 or the 3 inches roughly that we're looking for, as it meets the requirements for a dimensional variance. And B, move to grant the appeal for a variance from section 40-4.03 R1A through R1E, one family district, again, schedule of regulations for a maximum house size variance of 106 square feet for a total of 35.77 where 34.72 is allowed, as it generally meets the requirements for dimensional variance and will do substantial justice to the applicant and not adversely impact the neighborhood. Or, for both of them, you can move to deny the variance application as it fails to meet the necessary standards for approval. What I have here is I have all the plans, I have everything, no matter if you want to see it. I'm sure that Mr. Gordon and myself will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. And with that, Mr. Chair, the floor is yours.
All right, well, now we will open the floor to members of the board if they have comments or questions for the appellant or staff. Go ahead.
I just have a question for the architect. And I'll preface it by saying I was a member of the Planning Commission who worked very hard to come up with a formula for maximum house size depending on the lot size. And while I see 106 square feet or whatever it is as not a mammoth, violation or violation of the rules, it's not necessarily de minimis. So at the same time, it's not huge. So my question is this. In your planning and in your designing, what efforts did you make to, create a blueprint that was within the requirements as stated in the ordinance, and why were you not able to do that?
Well, as we were discussing earlier, is that we're looking down the road. That we wanted to create ensuite that, like you said, a lot of people in the area enjoy. Certain dimensions, like we could do reach-in closets, but it is, as we live in a modern world, and you look at the house, and there's a lot of extra spaces in the house that exist that we can't utilize, and I think we discussed violating the house's
Yeah.
architecture. So we did look, a walk-in closet has to be 6'6" wide in order to function as a walk-in closet. Anything narrower, then you can't hang down the other side. We tried multiple plans. We looked at going up, going in different directions, taking other rooms. And then we came back to this, and the clearance around a king-size bed, and we did all the math. And we came back and said, we think this is a reasonable ask. We are below the lot coverage still, which by rights in other areas, we could have taken up the full lot coverage if the other math worked. And again, the 3 inches, de minimis, yeah.
So let me ask it this way. Did you come up with a design that you think would have been a reasonable alternative to the one that you came up with that would have been in compliance with the square footage limit?
We looked at being in compliance, but it just didn't give enough to them to function fully in this space.
Megan, you're shaking your head.
Right.
I just want you to articulate why that alternative wasn't a reasonable one from your homeowner's perspective, recognizing that we all are, tasked with trying to live within the strictures of what the requirements are.
Right, I think like the two alternatives would have been to not have a walk-in closet,
Okay.
which was something that was pretty important to us. And then the other would have been to kind of blow up the adjacent room, which has this kind of really amazing built-in woodwork from the original builder and original homeowner. And so destroying that just would have done a disservice to the home and the history of it. So I think
Okay.
that those would be the two.
That's what I wanted to hear. What was your decision-making
Yeah.
and why you chose to go beyond the square footage requirements, and you've given me your reason.
Yeah, I guess, and the
Thank you.
third, there's even like another, the bathroom we do use is like a bright pink bathroom with flamingo tiles that I would have broken my heart
Okay.
to blow up.
Yes, Hank?
Sorry, if I
Yeah,
could
of course.
maybe add something to that, just
wanted
to
to-
maybe have that. Another thing is too, is that if you take a look at the addition, and the addition is 22 feet long, what they've tried to do is they've tried to comply with the City of Huntington Woods wanting fenestration on all sides of the building. So basically, having the longer building, which again adds square footage, allows them to put 2 windows on
Okay.
each side of this addition. So if you take a look at it, and you see that there's a window in the bathroom, there's a casement window there, there's also a window here over the bed table there, you have the big window over here, and you also have 2 windows here, including one in the closet, which had this, or I'm sorry, one in the hallway, which if this building would have been shorter, they would not have been able to put in. And that may have caused some concern for the planning commission. So having said that, I just didn't want to let that point.
That's an important point. Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions or comments? I guess I just, for my sanity, it's Monday still, right?
Yeah.
Okay, no, okay, yeah. So it's under the lot cover, you're asking to go marginally over the maximum house size. The house size is a function of the district that it's in, not the specific size of this lot, right? Is that how?
Well, the house is established by the district regulations, also the size of the lot there's a bonus for that, and also the architecture.
Okay.
So the planning commission has deemed that this is acceptable with the understanding that it's 106 square feet over what would be recommended. Excuse me, but they have sent it to you because they felt that they deserved the chance to present their case for that.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm just, so, is the double, the 250-foot lots combined, if that lot were in the acre sub, would we be here?
Well,
Or at that point, it would be under the maximum
It
house
would be
size?
under the maximum house size in the
Okay.
acre sub, but it's not. So the
Right,
area, the
okay.
zone district that you're in, it still would have been under, at least for the side yard variance, if they would have had, if the lot was straight, and
Right.
it's just not.
Okay.
So, that's the one variance. The other variance is that, the configuration of the house, the interior configuration of that, wanting to get the fenestration in on both sides of that particular house. And the planning commission felt that it was enough to send it to you. You have to decide if it's enough to you
Right.
to pass it on to the permit phase.
Got it.
And I can say to its uniqueness, I have been inside of the home before they moved in. And it is a classic mid-century modern, and it's beautiful. So I appreciate that they don't want to hurt it. And, changing what's there and just, adding something that makes their lives better and more useful in today's world, so,
Yeah, I much prefer this over going up
yeah, it shouldn't be up.
based on the property. So, I mean, I have looked at it and I would much prefer, like, at this ass, I'm trying to get my head around it, but the alternative is probably going up. And I would like to see that less than this, let's put it that way. So,
I think when we have stuff like this, we have to really engage in a delicate balancing act that the, ordinances and requirements and regulations are what they are, they're there for a reason, but we can't be absolutist in applying them. And when we have a violation that, is more than de minimis but less than egregious, the important thing is what efforts were made, in my mind, to, design in conformity with what the requirements are and how onerous would requiring the homeowner to stay within those strictures. And here, my opinion is that, you have to have some type of flexibility, and it's an appropriate exercise of our discretion to use that flexibility here, given the explanation that the homeowners provided. That's just my personal opinion.
All right, we can entertain a motion, or do we open up to the public first?
You should open it up to the
Okay,
public.
well, we are now opening it up to the public. Any comments? Hearing none, we can move to entertain a motion on either or both of the variance requests.
I'll move to approve both of the variance requests as stated by Hank and as presented in our package.
I'll second.
Okay, any further comments before we put it to a full vote?
Are we voting on those individually?
Right now, they've been presented as a pair, so if you want to unbundle them, we can do that. Or we can move forward with the motion as presented.
Do you want me to separate them?
No, I think that, Hank, that's a procedural thing.
Oh, sure.
You can do that if you separate them. You can take them both together. If you separate them, that's typically a case where some person or somebody on the panel may feel that one of the two variances requires a little bit more discussion. Or you can take them both together as presented. That's up to you.
What's the three?
I mean,
Take them together.
yeah, does anyone want to separate them?
No.
Okay, then let's just go.
Okay, so now, all in favor of the motion as presented?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you very
Appreciate it.
much.
And,
Mr. Chair, at this point in time, for the other business, I do just want to point out that the planning commission is planning on having you on the agenda. Unfortunately, last time they didn't so because of the rather extensive agenda that they had, which Rich can attest to. But this time you'd like to have, what does that mean for you?
too much static and too much folding.
Sorry.
We don't have much,
So
Much
basically
practice
what this
around
means is that if there's things where you have that you might want them to consider in the ordinance change, if you're seeing the same thing over and over again and it always passes, these are times when you can communicate to that. My goal in this is doing this once a year just so that you can do that. Even though Rick is a liaison to the planning commission, it's still an opportunity for all of you to be heard, and I encourage you to do that. How do you do that? You come to the next planning commission meeting. If there's nothing, that's great. If you do have something, that's great. If you have questions, that's also great. Whatever it is that you want to discuss with them, this is a great opportunity to have it. They're carving out a little bit of the meeting for you. If you have nothing to say, that's fine, but in any case, they'll welcome you to the next planning commission meeting and thank you again.
Thank you.
So if you have any questions of me prior to going, now would be the time to ask.
When is that?
That is the next planning
22nd?
commission meeting, which is Tuesday, the 28th.
oh,
At what time?
7 o'clock. If you can't make it, you can't make it, but I do want to make sure that we have the opportunity to do that. Also, another thing that you can do is if you have questions and you know you're not going to be making it, and there are some things that you would like brought up, feel free to, email Franco or myself, and we'll make sure that those questions get put up in front of the planning commission for that. And Rick, I'm assuming you'll be there, I don't know that.
Yeah, I'll be there.
So, and Rick is our chair for the planning commission, so, and we appreciate his service. But having said that, that's all I had for communications and other business for this evening.
all right, well, then we can adjourn.
We need one more public participation
Oh, yes,
for the record.
for the record, if any member of the public would like to speak, hearing none, we can now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
I second.
Okay. We are seconded and approved
Also,
for the